Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Courtside Soundoff podcast today. I'm Josh Evanoff. He's Zane Ortega. Not a lot to talk about this week in terms of big fights, or we still got some news to discuss, as well as some announcements for episode 100. Before we get into that, I want to talk to you guys about Rogue Energy. This episode of the Courtside Soundoff podcast is brought to you by Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy was founded in January 2017 to be the best gaming drink in the world. They built the premium stack in the form of a delicious energy and focus drink. It is designed to replace unhealthy canned energy drinks, coffee, and even traditional pre-workouts. Rogue Energy is sugar-free and is loaded with vitamins, antioxidants, and nootropics. They're designed by Rogue Energy for the emerging professional and competitive gaming market, and it continues to have fantastic carryover and success with students, athletes, entrepreneurs, and anyone looking to optimize their mental and physical performance. If you want 10% off your order, use the code SOUNDOFF at checkout. This code SOUNDOFF at checkout for 10% off of all your energy needs. Last Saturday night from the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, UFC 258, Gilbert Burns taking on Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman winning via third round KO. I got to eat some crow here. Got to say it, boys. I said it was going to be on the MKF predictions. I was batting 1,000, no longer. Batting 1,000. I picked significant strikes because I said this fight is without a doubt going to go to a decision. No chance in hell. Instead, it ended up being one of the most action-packed fights of the year so far. Gilbert Burns coming out early, nearly getting the finish, knocking down Usman, looking like, oh my God, Gilbert's about to do it, man. It's all over. In the end, after getting that knockdown, he jumped in his guard and kind of just hung out for a little bit. Gave Kamaru some time to clear the cobwebs, gave him some time to get a breather, kind of chill on the ground for a little bit. Busted Gilbert with a jab, ended up hurting him, dropping him at one point. Gilbert ended up surviving after that, but ended up being put down again in the third, this time with a clean right jab. Ended up jumping on some ground to the panel. At that point, it was all academic, though. Kamaru Usman winning via third round TKO. What did you think about his performance last Saturday?
Like I told you, Josh, I'm not worried about Kamaru Usman that night. I'm worried about another man in this corner named Trevor Whitman. And everything I thought that could happen did happen. I thought it was interesting, right? When Gilbert ended up on the ground. And he invited the ground, invited Kamaru to come down, and Kamaru didn't go down. I was like, oh shit, we know what was happening in the gym then, which was very interesting because, in other situations, Kamaru would have been like, fuck it, let's go down, right? But no, against Gilbert, decided to keep it on the feet. I'm guessing most of the competitiveness must have stayed on the feet during the gym sessions, and I think he talked about it in his post-fight interview with that hit that hurt him. He that would catch him when they were be sparring in practice. So it was something that had something he was used to, something that had happened but hadn't adjusted to, and obviously he saw it again. And I think he said I think in the interview he claimed it pissed him off, so he got really angry. So that's why he came right back at him real quick. Overall, though, it was a great fight. Crazy emotions from start to finish, right? Obviously, the early on, Gilbert, you're like, oh shit, and then the storm, it all slows down, it all gets weathered, and then it seemed, and pretty much after that, it is all Kamaru. I do wonder why Gilbert didn't decide to just instantly get back up on his feet and keep going if he knew he hurt or might have hurt, right? Kamaru at that point, and looked like he had the advantage going at least in that round, and then seemingly just lost it very easily after that. And then the pour of emotions afterwards, completely. It was all love in the end. At least they weren't mad at each other, right? Because I know they have a pretty good friendship. I mean, Kamaru has even been at Gilbert's fights and cornered Gilbert, so they have a really close relationship. And the fact that they did this and were able to kind of, at least what it looks like at face level, it's that they'll be fine going forward. But as a lot of people say, it might seem like that, but in reality, there'll always be some lingering feelings. regarding the fact that they did fight and that one did win and one did lose.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you mentioned the training, and that's something that I think Dana's talked a lot about going into this fight. Like, they know who's the better one in the training room. But look, man, training's not fucking fighting. And we've seen that a couple of times now. Just historically speaking, like, wasn't the story that Tito was better than Chuck in the training room? Wasn't that the whole legacy behind that fight? And then Chuck ended up whooping his ass twice. And that's kind of what happened here, because Usman said, I'm pretty sure he said in the post-fight interview, yeah, I mean, he was a tough guy for me to deal with in the training room. I don't think he outright said he was better than him, but he kind of implied it. And then same thing for Burns. I don't think Burns outright said it, but he also implied it, that he was, a tough guy to deal with in training. And Usman, man, I mean, after that first round, I thought it was all Usman, man, and he really improved his striking. And that's what I told you about, and this is something you mentioned as well. You're not scared about Kamaru. You're scared about that man, Trevor Whitman. And I was like, look, man, you got to give Kamaru one full game, because, yeah, like, he did not look great against Masvidal striking, but, he'd only been with Whitman for like 2 months at that point, right? We're looking at a Kamaru Usman who's been training with Trevor Whitman for around a year now, and he's looking phenomenal, man. He's on the feet. He's only getting better on the feet. That's the thing that's scary. Kamaru is still only, 31, 32? And now he's with arguably the best striking coach on the planet, and he's only getting better. So it's going to be really exciting to watch him down the road. Is he at the GSP level yet? No. I've seen some people saying he's the best welterweight of all time, which I really hate. Not to expose some of our fan questions, and now we put out a couple of things out there that we're doing fan questions next week, with a bunch of other stuff as well. One fan question related to that, so I don't want to give my full opinion on that, but yeah, man, I just like how we proclaim everything to be the best ever, but Kamaru does have the potential to be the best ever, especially best welterweight of all time, if he can keep on doing what he's showing, like on Saturday, because he looked phenomenal. And as far as moving forward, man, he called up Masvidal next. I don't really want to see it, but shit, man, he's beaten pretty much everybody in the top 10 at this point. He's cleaned out the division outside of Wonderboy. And I don't think they're going to give it to Wonderboy, because for whatever reason they fucking hate Wonderboy.
Well, he's hurt. He's hurt.
He is hurt. That's true. But
just want to clear that up.
Before that too, like they had him
because of the Leon fight, because they thought he could have fought Leon, and then because I saw there was a whole thing on the internet about that, like Wonderboy should be fighting. It's like, guys, Wonderboy's hurt. Just don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's true. But moving forward, I mean, he even said he wants Usman next, after.
Oh yeah.
Once he heals up, which is fine, but I don't think they're going to give it to him. I mean, there's a reason why they keep on throwing Wonderboy with these young guys. It seems like they're more like trying to use Wonderboy as a test barometer guy rather than a contender anymore, which makes me sad, because I think he might be the dude who could beat Usman. But, I mean, I've said my opinion before on that fight, but whatever.
We're going to be the funnest matchup.
It would be a fun matchup, and it'd be fresh. So, I mean, I'd like to see it next, but I don't think they're going to do it. I think it's more likely we're either going to get Masvidal, Edwards, or Bilal Muhammad, the GOAT. No, we'll talk about him later, though. But moving on to the co-main, man, Alexa Grasso. Daniel Cormier said that Alexa Grasso is maybe the best pure boxer in the UFC. Now, we've heard that about 17 different fighters lately: Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar, Conor McGregor. But he might be right. Alexa Grasso's boxing last Saturday looked phenomenal against Macy Barber. Barber was hitting air all night. If she was fighting her shadow, she won 10-8 rounds every single time. However, she was fighting Alexa Grasso. She ended up losing a decision because she was missing almost every single punch. Alexa Grasso, amazing 1-2, great defense, just barely slipping out of those punches, man. Great showing offensively and defensively on the feet. What do you think about her win?
I thought that this could have happened. Obviously, Grasso looked a lot better than what I thought. Obviously, makes a little shot to the trigger up until that third round, where she kind of let it all out. A lot of people are saying, if she would have fought that fight with that same energy she had in the third round for the first two, she most definitely probably wins it, and I agree with that. It's just maybe that, injury kind of still there mentally. Like, it's not that she's actually hurt, but she was just like, I don't know if I'll be 100%. I don't know if I can have the confidence to do the certain things. But yeah, I thought that's what it was. I mean, not to take away from Goss. I mean, she did everything right. She did everything she had to do, and she looked great at it, and even had a submission attempt in there. I mean, and a good ground transition in there too. I think it was was it a triangle? I forgot what it was, but she had something in there that was really impressive. Mm-hmm. Good for her. I mean, continue to grow, continue doing your grind. As far as Missy Barber, dude, she's 22 years old. I mean, it's not over. I mean,
Not worried.
not worried. I mean, she'll get back on track in no time. I mean, this is nothing to have to worry about. I mean, she was the one who set her timeline and put pressure on herself. But sometimes shit happens and slows you down. So this is part of it.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, 22, and she's a top 10 fighter in a weight class. She'll be fine. I'm not necessarily worried about her. Yeah, man, hell of a performance for Grasso though. I mean, she's really seems to found her home at 125. I mean, you can make a case that she should have won her last 4 fights. You know what I mean? Like, I thought she beat Carla Esparza. I know she's won her other 3 outside of that. She's only getting better, man. Shout out her. She would be an interesting fight moving up that division for anybody to take on. So, but moving on, man, Kelvin Gastelum. He got in the win column. Not a super exciting fight, but he did what he needed to do. Incorporating, I'm pretty sure Kelvin shot for his first takedown I've ever seen in the UFC, or at least in a long time in this fight. He got a couple of takedowns against Heinisch. What do you think about his performance and getting back in the mix at 185?
Good for him. He broke his record for takedowns. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
So you got his most takedowns. I think the most he ever had was 4. He broke that with 6. So obviously displaying all aspects of MMA. It's crazy, man. The guy's 29 years old and he's been in the game for what feels like a lot longer. He was in desperate need of a win. This wasn't a matter of of maybe or see if he can pull through it. It was a must-win situation. He had to win last Saturday night, and he got it done, man. I was like, there's no choice. If not, this could look bad, and this could be the end of a road.
For sure. And as far as that goes, man, I mean, if he did not win this one, it would have been a really bad look. And I'm glad to see him get back in the win column because I truly think he can be one of the best at 185. Especially if he actually starts to incorporate more guys. Like I was giving him shit saying like a minute ago saying it's been a long time since he shot a takedown, which is true, but I really think that he could. Just because you guys watched The Ultimate Fighter like a long time ago, he was never that amazing of a striker. He used a lot of his grappling, to be completely honest, and I feel like he's kind of gone away from that in his last few fights, especially in the Izzy fight and the Till fight. And then obviously he got lost to Hermanson in like 6 seconds, so didn't really get the chance. But you know what I mean? Like he's mixing it back up. It'll be fun to watch him moving forward. Final 2 fights. I mean, Simone defeating Kelleher, Ricky Simone getting back in the win column, picking up a nice win. I thought they were going to stop that shit in round 1. Because Brian Kelleher was bleeding like a water faucet, and they ended up just letting it go on. So, shout out to Ricky Simone getting the win, though. What do you think about that?
Hey, man, I said it'd be a tough fight, obviously because of what Brian Kelleher offers. Once again, masterclass, got it done, got a good win, and he's getting back on track and stringing those wins together after having 2 back-to-back losses a couple years ago. Or what is it? It's been a couple years now. It's been about 2 years, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and very well-rounded guy in Kelleher, and he's already coming back down the stretch. But Simone really, he put a beating on him for the first round and a half, I'd say, first 2 rounds, I'd say. Ended up getting better down the stretch, but man, he was bleeding really badly early. But surprised he didn't stop it. But overall, a nice decision win for him. And man, this is it's insane. This is probably the second biggest storyline coming out of this card, which is
I know, right?
Depressing to say. But Julian Marquez, friend of the show. No, but Julian Marquez. Local KC native Kansas City native, got to throw a quick shout out there. Taking on Maki Polo. I completely fucked up his name. Wow, that was bad. Maki Patolo. I should really not mess up his name because it was a banger of a fight to open up the main card. Absolutely amazing show, and he came out, showed a lot in his first 2 rounds, man. I mean, Julian Marquez took 2 years off, and he looked like it for the first 2 rounds. He looked pretty gun shy. He really seemed gassed after the first 5 minutes, which, I mean, I've watched a lot of Julian Marquez fights, and he always seemed gassed after the first 5, but yeah, he keeps on going. Sometimes get the finish, and that's what happened here, man. Down 2 rounds to 0, ends up coming back and was 43 seconds away from losing any unanimous decision. Ended up landing a flurry, ended up locking on an anaconda choke, winning via submission, defeating Maki Patola, getting his first dub in 2 years. Gets on the mic, and he calls out Miley Cyrus. And then, just saying, will you be my Valentine? She goes viral, by the way. She responds. And she says, if you put an MC in your chest hair, because Julian Marquez looks like an ape, if you put MC in your chest hair, because he has a lot of it, I'll be yours. And I guess Julian Marquez thought this was the time to start negotiating.
He fucked up, man. He fucked up.
Personally, whenever I'm shooting my shot, I always decide to negotiate rather than just go ahead and take what I have. He decided to negotiate. No, if you get a tattoo, I'll go ahead and do it for you. So
I want to do one to clear up, Josh. He did say a henna tattoo, so it would go away.
Okay, fine, a henna tattoo. You're right. My bad.
Yeah.
Still very stupid, and no response on Twitter. So,
okay.
Yeah, man.
Now we can talk about the third story come out because there's four, I'd say.
There's
probably,
four.
Right?
Four. All right, go ahead. Take the last two.
Okay. Anthony Hernandez, aka Fluffy.
Yeah.
Submitting the black belt hunter Rodolfo Vieira. Josh, I thought Rodolfo Vieira was going to submit the fuck out of Anthony Hernandez.
It looked like it. It looked like it.
I was like, I could bet the house on this. Thank God I didn't bet the house on this.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but.
But I'd say that was probably like the second storyline coming out, or third, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth, because of what happened after the fight a few days ago, is Belal
Remember the name.
Yeah.
Remember the name, Belal Muhammad. But yo, real quick, before we move on to him, quick shout out Fluffy, man. That is the most. Because look, man, I think I mentioned it on the show. It's very rare that it has me like moments in MMA make me jump out of my seat. Just because I've been covering the sport for a long time, I've seen some crazy shit in person. I've been writing about the sport. We've been talking about it on the show for almost 2 years now. Episode 100 next week. And so yeah, man, not a whole lot makes me jump out of my seat. That shit was insane.
I feel
to
the
see
same
a guy
way.
who was most known for getting nuked by Kevin Holland in 39 seconds to submit arguably the greatest jiu-jitsu artist of all time. I mean, you can make the case. I wouldn't agree, but you can make the case, right? And that was he was. If you were to go ahead and bet on that, if you bet the house on that, right? If you not even bet the house, if you put down $100, you would have won $3,300 back on Fluffy Hernandez getting the sub win. Insane, but yeah, go on about Belal. Remember the name, Muhammad.
Okay, Josh. Well, it's crazy putting out the greatest, not even remembering Gordon Ryan. No, I was kidding. It's just fucking with you.
Gordon's up there.
No, Gordon and Rodolfo is up there too. He gets brought up a lot in that conversation for sure. But yeah, man, it's crazy what happened. Like you said, it was one of those moments where I'm sitting there watching the fight because I was hanging out with friends, and no one else is reacting but me, right? Because I know what's happening right now.
Yeah, because you're watching with a bunch of normies. They don't understand what's going on.
I know, right? And I'm
Shout
like,
out, Nate.
and I'm in awe of what's happening, just like you. But you're right. That was probably one of those oh shit moments too, where I quit what I was doing. I quit eating my pizza, and I sit up a little bit and start paying more attention. And I'm like, no way. And did he tap or did he put him to sleep? I can't remember.
No, he tapped him.
Damn, that's even worse. Smart man. But yeah, the fourth story coming out of this, Belal, remember the name Muhammad, getting the win over Diego Lima. The reason this is the fourth story, which should arguably be probably the second story, is he's stepping in and fighting Leon Edwards. Hazmat fell out. He had COVID and is not recovering well. He has stated that he thought he was going to die, which is not good. And that he at one point, I guess he was training and got really ill, like to the point where I think he might have even thrown up, had to leave, had a headache, like it was just bad. So hopefully he gets better soon. But yeah, that was probably like the fourth story coming out of this card.
Yeah, man. Shout out Belal. Remember the name Muhammad. It's a fight between two guys that really like. We've been talking for like a while now about how like Leon. I think we talked about last week, just because Belal doesn't come up as much in like conversation. That these two dudes are guys that need a big fight, right? Belal has been fighting these guys who are unranked for a long time. He's been putting the wins together, and nothing coming out of it really. I mean, he's moving up in the rankings, but not much. He didn't move up from beating Diego. That was a zero upside win for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leon, dude, like Leon,
he's taking the risk.
He's taking the risk, taking a big risk, but
with two guys.
two back-to-back dudes. He was going to fight Cosma, and then who's 15, and then he was going to fight Bilal, who's 13. So it's like it's actually kind of moving up whenever you think about it. But yeah, man, huge fight. I love that fight a lot, dude. Straight up. I have no idea who I'd pick in that one, just because I think their styles can really make for a really fun fight, straight up. But I think it's gonna be really interesting. And that fight's only a month away. That's the crazy part, man. Bilal's got balls of steel, so shout out him.
Yeah, hopefully he's in good shape and there's no injury that he's hiding or whatever. I mean, obviously he has to get medically cleared, but still, you never know.
Yeah, and moving on, man. Was there anything else on the undercard you want to talk about?
No, I mean we talked about it on the prelims. I mean, those two stories are crazy, and when those situations ended up happening, were probably like my highlights of the night, at least from the undercard.
For sure, man. And moving on to the card that we got going on this Saturday, it's the big boys. It's the big boys, the big lads.
God.
Very conflicted, man. I gotta say it. I'm very conflicted on this fight. And oh, wait a minute, I forgot to do one quick thing. For the previous card, I said I was gonna give a shout out if it happened. Shout out former host, one-time host Nate Beggs for having a good night on Monkey Knife Fights. Got to throw that out there. Angel, I know you did as well. Yeah, man. I told him I'd give him a shout out if he won, and he did win a little bit of cash. We're over here robbing Monkey Knife Fight. That's what we do over here, boys.
By 0.5 of a strike.
0.5 of a strike. That's insane, dude. Yeah, man. I told him, Nate, I hope you're listening, bro. I told you I'd give you a shout out. I almost forgot, but I did. I ended up doing it. So, yeah, man, insane. We love Monkey Knife Fight, but we're going to take all their money. I mean, they're a great partner, but we got to take all their cash. Just one of the things we got to do. But yeah, man, that was the last quick storyline coming out of that card. We said there were 4 storylines. There were 5. Nathaniel Baker getting the big dub as well.
Oh boy, you love to see it.
Love to see it. But yeah, quick. Anyways, some back to the card. Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, man, 2 dudes at heavyweight which are streaking. No idea how this fits in the title conversation, just because the situation at heavyweight with the title has been so messed up for like 2 years now, 3 years now. And it's not getting any better now that John's moving up. But regardless, man, 2 dudes who are on great win streaks. Derek Lewis looking like he's in the prime of his life in terms of his like athletic ability. I think he's looked the most well-rounded his last 3 fights than he has in his entire UFC career. He doesn't have, he only got 1 flashy knockout in those 3 fights, but I thought he looked just all around great physically, and also his grappling looked good, his gas tank looked good. He was more measured in his approach. He's taking on a guy in Curtis Blades who last time out didn't look phenomenal, I'd say, but he did get a pretty dominant victory, not in terms of the striking, but just pure wrestling. 14 takedowns, set the record. And now he's back, man. He's been very open about how he does not give a, I'm pretty sure to quote him, a flying fuck about what the fans think. He's got mouths to feed, and he's got a job to do, and he'll take your ass down 17 times if you let him. And Derek Lewis looking for the knockout once again. Very intense stare down earlier today. Who do you got in the main event for this one, my man?
I've talked about how much I really, it's not like it's going to happen for a while anyways, how I really don't want to see Curtis Blades, Francis Ngannou 3. And it's no disrespect to Curtis Blades. The guy's super talented. He's only lost to Ngannou up until this point, because on Saturday night he's going to lose to Derek Lewis.
Ooh.
But, that's kind of my one thing. I love to see the Derek Lewis Francis Ngannou rematch. Just because the first fight didn't happen how it should have. They both had issues. Something was off. The mental was not there. I want to see that rematch. And there's a title at stake. I want to see what motivated Black Beast looks like. Because he's talked about how he really didn't care, and how he's kind of like started caring more, cares about his training more, kind of dedicated more time to the craft. And he says that even imagining himself as UFC champion is kind of like a weird thing, saying Derek Lewis, UFC heavyweight champ of the world, is kind of like just this crazy thing. Like it's almost out of this world to him. So I'd almost like to see him be in that position again. And then in a rematch, in a fight where he's won, but things weren't, all fully there, or one guy wasn't all right and the other guy wasn't fully there either, and see what can come out of him, and see him in the title position against Ngannou or Stipe. We don't know, right? We don't know who's gonna win that. But And with Blades too. I mean, I don't know if Blades would fight Stipe or fight Ngannou, but if he were to fight Ngannou, I wouldn't. I personally am not the biggest fan. I wanted to see Ngannou, Blades 3 is my big thing. But Derek's one of those guys that you can never count out. There's this certain thing of he'll stick in it, and somehow, some way, last second he'll pull it out of his ass and get the knockout or get the finish or get on top. And he has some good ground and pound. So somehow in some of those takedowns that Blades has, he doesn't end up on top, and Derek ends up on top, Blades ends up on the bottom, Blades ends up on top. That could be some scary situation for him there, because Blade has probably some of the best ground and pound in, at least in the whole heavyweight division in the UFC. Honestly in the world too. I think it's that good. He will lay it on you. Even though he doesn't seem like the most threatening guy at face level, and his personality is very funny, he is a threat at this weight class. And they've been putting him against these guys who have this wrestling background, ground ability. It's almost like he's been building up to this one, and now he's getting his opportunity.
Yeah, man. I'm actually gonna go Blades. I don't think Curtis Blades loses to anybody at heavyweight except for Ngannou. Like, I'll be sure. I truly believe that. I'm dead. I think he beats Lewis. I think he beats Stipe. I think a lot of people beat Stipe now, just because I'm not sure how his chin is, especially after he probably is going to lose to Ngannou. That's my thoughts. Obviously, exposing myself before that fight happens. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go Blades. I just think the only time we've actually seen Derek Lewis go up against a world-class NCAA champ, was obviously whenever he actually fought Daniel Cormier a couple of years ago. And, since then, he obviously faced Alir, and obviously Alir's a good grappler, but he's a 205er. He fought Blagoy, and Blagoy's a good grappler, but he's also past his prime. He's in his late 30s. Who's the best grappler he's faced outside of Cormier? I mean, he hasn't faced a whole lot of high-level guys in grappling. I think Blades is by far the best two, Daniel Cormier that he's faced. I'm gonna go Blades, man. I'm not sure how. I'm thinking either. I wouldn't be surprised if it's submission, honestly. Because I think he's gonna dominate him, and I just don't see him. Because this is the thing, Derek Lewis is one of those guys where it's like he proves grappling isn't real, right? Jiu-jitsu is fake. It doesn't matter. That's just his fight style. But at the same time, Curtis Blades is very, very strong in his own right, and I don't think that the whole thing of Derek Lewis just standing up, I don't think it's going to work this time. And I feel like I say that multiple times for Derek Lewis, but I don't think it's actually going to work this time. Curtis Blades is strong as fuck too, so I'm going to go ahead and go Blades. Moving on to the co-main though. Interesting scrap here. I actually like this fight a whole lot between two top 10 women at 135. Ketlen Vieira taking on Yana Kunitskaya. Ketlen Vieira came into the UFC, a lot of hype behind her. Ended up, outside of one loss to Irene Aldana, undefeated in the UFC with a couple of nice wins over Sarah Kat Zingano, just to name a few. Yana Kunitskaya, on the other hand, came into the UFC with little to no hype behind her. She was a former Invicta champ, just by virtue of Tanya Eminger leaving the division. It got murked by Chris Cyborg in her first fight, and since then she's won 3 of her last 4, only lost to Aspen Ladd in the third round TKO. That was an awesome fight though. Wins over Julia Stolilenko and a couple of others, to name a few. She's been, working her way up, and now she's here in a crossroads fight, both of them in a crossroads situation. Who do you got in the co-main?
No, dude, I got Ketlen Vieira, dude. Hands down.
Yeah, I'm gonna go same here, man. I think Yana's, her last few wins, she's impressed me a lot. I gotta say it, man. I know she's working with a new camp. I believe she's either married or engaged to Thiago Santos. Interesting couple there, but I know they're training together, and she actually moved to Thiago's gym. So she's training with a good camp. She's shown improvements in spades, especially in her clinch work. She's arguably, in my opinion, the best clinch fighter in women's MMA. You saw that in the Julia Stolilenko fight. You saw that in a couple of other fights here recently. She's a master in the clinch. She took down Cyborg from the clinch, which I'm not sure a lot of people remember that. She nearly submitted Chris Cyborg. So she's very good in the clinch. I think Ketlen Vieira is a better all-around fighter, though. I think she's better on the feet overall. And I also think that she's going to land a couple of those takedowns. She's very good on the mat. So I'm going to go Ketlen Vieira as well. But outside of that, man, what do you also like about the undercard on this fight?
This is I've gone back forth on it, man. I'm really not like the most excited for it if I can't deny it. This is one of those weaker fight nights. There's some good names spread around. Obviously, no disrespect to the fighters, right? But as far as name power,
Disrespectful prick.
I know, right? Alexei Oleinik's on the card, but he does have a tough opponent in front of him. I'd probably say that's one of my more favorite matchups of the night. It's crazy because I like all the vets on this card, man. Like, and then Andrei Arlovsky is the other fight I'm kind of looking to. I say third to that is probably like the Phil Haas fight for me, at least as far as like that I want to personally watch.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And as you mentioned, Arlovsky taking on Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall, a fun British prospect. I believe he's looking to go 3-0 in the UFC, but as we all know, Arlovsky is a prospect killer lately. Just ends up dashing all of our hopes and dreams. If you're a young 265er and you see Arlovsky against the cage, just know it's not going to be an easy night for you. Outside of that, though, as you mentioned, man, I'm normally a guy who's an optimistic guy. Not a whole lot here. Phil Haas should be fun. Great prospect. Alexei Oleinik should be fun. Eddie Wineland's back, which I love to see, but underrated banger, dude. Jakar Close, Luis Pena. Oh, my God. That's going to be a scrap, my guy. That's going to be a straight-up scrap. Jakar Close had an awesome fight last time around. Luis Pena is always entertaining. And then outside of that, man, Alman Zahabi, brother of Faraz Zahabi, he's back, so that should be fun. Outside of that, not a whole lot, though. Not a whole lot. But one quick announcement before we move on from the UFC. Angel, I texted you about this earlier this week. I kind of just wanted to make the announcement on the show, make it a nice formal thing. I was debating saving it for episode 100, but boys, the Courtside Soundoff podcast is now officially a UFC approved media credential outlet. Let's go ahead and give a hand. We went ahead and applied for those official we applied for those official credentials earlier this past week. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I've been waiting to hear back. And I was already a part of Cage Side Press, so I was already approved if I ever wanted to cover a fight. But now we, as a media outlet, are officially approved to cover fights for the UFC. If they come to Kansas City or if we want to go to Vegas.
Anywhere.
Or anywhere, we can go ahead and attend those virtual media days, so on and so forth. It's here now, boys. It's awesome. We built this podcast from the ground up. And now we've interviewed some fighters here and there. We've done a lot of media stuff, but the UFC is obviously the top level of the top level. So being an approved outlet alongside, because I can go through and I can see like other outlets and it's like, oh, Bloody Elbow, MMAfighting.com, CBS, ESPN, so on and so forth, and then Courtside Soundoff. You just love to see it. But yeah, man,
there's a good ring to it, though. You can't deny it.
It does. It's a great ring, man.
Do you have your passport ready, Josh? You ready for Abu Dhabi when we go back to Fight Island for Conor
I gotta be
versus
honest,
Destin?
man. I've really thought about man, we could do it, right? Like we could do it.
We could road trip. We road trip to the Apex one day.
We could, man. I mean, we're approved. We're approved.
We big time.
Yeah, we got to add our pictures in there, though. That's one thing we got to do.
I know. Got to get a mugshot in there.
Yeah, but yeah, man, gotta add a mugshot. That's funny. Yeah, man, we're good to go. So that's a quick announcement. Obviously, for you guys that aren't if you're not aware of the press side of stuff, you don't know how big of a deal this is. But dude, when I got that email, it went to my spam for the record, so I didn't even know for a day to my spam saying that we got approved. Told me the login and all that stuff. It went to my spam, so I had no idea. For another day, and I was like, oh wait, shit, we're approved. We are a registered UFC approved outlet for media. So absolutely insane, man. Yeah, that's the quick little thing I just wanted to talk about this weekend. It's not necessarily big to a lot of you guys, but yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. Not gonna lie. But outside of that, moving on to the sport of basketball, the NBA, a couple of storylines to talk about, man. Firstly, I think the main one we got to talk about is so the Bucks suck, right? That's just.
I mean, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough, but I will say they have lost 5 in a row, and they're kind of continuing that struggle that they showed last postseason. So what do you kind of think about their recent struggles, and what do you think kind of the reason behind it is? Because I know that Giannis has been playing. It's not like doing it due to an injury issue, but they've been playing relatively bad recently.
I mean, there's no suspect. I mean, the only suspect loss I say they have in there. I mean, you can argue the Raptors, but I mean, they were a team that were priorly pretty competitive. The Thunder loss is the only one I think anybody should be really worried about because, I mean, Giannis has been healthy all season for the most part, if I remember it. I don't know if he's missed any games. He's probably missed one or two, and I can't think of them off the top of my head. But even then, the team, I think, has probably found a little bit of success even when he's not there. But I'd say the Suns and Jazz loss are forgivable. I mean, the Suns, obviously, it was a close, tight game. 124, 125 came down to the wire. And then the Jazz game, I mean, the Jazz have been looking great. So, you really don't have a lot to argue with there. I think the Thunder loss is the only one you put on question on Valentine's Day. And then the Raptors one, I mean, say what you want about the Raptors, but at least not too long ago, they were a really competitive team. And, the Raptors are trying to, I think, recently have strung a good couple set of wins together. So, along with that, they've been able to come back and put a couple things pretty well together. I think Pascal's kind of had a little self-resurgence because for a while there he was one of those guys who had kind of slowed down and was kind of figured out by the league and had kind of the same go-to moves. And until recently, he kind of started finding life again in his game and looks like that Pascal of a year ago and 2 years ago and who was in that championship setting and looked just really good and looked like he was the next big thing and could have been a prototype of, kind of what Kawhi was going into the future. Kind of similar player, not necessarily the exact same, maybe not with the defense, but maybe more similar to the offense. And I mean, I don't think there's anything to be worried about here with the Bucks. When playoffs come, I'm sure the Bucks will look just as normal as they always do. So I mean,
if they're playoff Bucks, then that's not a good thing.
Well, you can make an argument, yes, but you never know, right? Maybe this time is the right time.
What is it? Third or fourth time's the charm now.
Something.
See
like
if they can
that.
get out of the East. But yeah, man, I think it is a storyline to watch that they are continuing to be so bad. And we'll talk about the Bucks in a minute when we talked about. Well, actually, let's go ahead and do that right now. This episode of the Courtside Soundoff podcast is actually brought to you by not just Rogue Energy, but also Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight is a daily fantasy sports gaming website for the casual sports fan that is simple, fun, and easy to play. Used to determine which superstars competing in the day's professional sporting events will record more or less than the contest line provided. MKF's daily fantasy prop games play similar to the salary cap based daily fantasy sports game, but without the algorithms, lineups, and most importantly, sharks. There are several contests to choose from, none of which require hours of research required on competing sites. Start with a simple 2 for 2 or go for the highest payouts 100 times and higher by selecting an 8 for 8 more or less contest. Get started now with a 100% instant match bonus up to $50 of code Courtside. A very popular code. I've seen a couple of guys have used it so far, but as we talked about the Bucks a minute ago, they are playing today. And Josh's MKF lock of the week was batting 1,000 up until Kamaru and Gilbert had to go and just have the fight of the year. But I know you ended up winning on that night, not following my advice. Good for you. Shout out Nathaniel Beggart, former host of the show. He had a good night as well. But look, man, got to go to the sport of basketball in this one. Mentioned the Bucks. They're playing tonight, more or less 31.5 points for Giannis, and then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 20.5. I'm going to take the under on Giannis. I'm going to go take the over on Shai Gil. Pretty simple one. It's an easy one this week. But I think it's an easy one to also go ahead and pick. Bucks have been struggling. I think they'll still probably win the game because the Thunder have been terrible. But I do think Shai Gil is going to go off. I already picked him to go over once before. I think he's going to do it again. But to continue moving on to the side of the NBA, Utah, man, I think we talk about it almost every single week, but they are like quietly the best team in the league. I guess you can make the case overall. They continued their winning ways, still number one in the West. What do you think about their kind of sneaky success this year?
They were, like I said in the last week, they were one of the teams that I had little to no faith in for the longest time. But the pieces kind of finally started falling in place. They kind of started getting the right guys, and the right guys started performing. RG Barrett obviously had a better year this year, kind of coming to life. Obviously, Julius Randle looking like a whole new animal with some of the numbers he has been putting up. So it's just been like the perfect formula in a way, man. And obviously with a couple of rooks that looked good and a couple just little random pieces here that have just kind of fallen in the right place. Like I said, I keep reiterating it week after week. It's just that somehow, some way, they've kind of stumbled into the right pieces in a way, and I know for that Julius Randle signing, they got a lot of shit, man, way back when they first did it, because it was like, what are they doing? They had a bunch of forwards. They were just not looking like they were going to be good for a while. I mean, they looked like they were going to be the next Sixers. It'd be just really bad for a long time and not be able to find any success. But like I said, they've kind of figured it out a little bit. They're very young, so as far as expectations, there shouldn't be a lot to be expected. I think they'll it's just the fact that they'll be in a championship setting, which will be the most beneficial thing to them if they continue to win games and stay in the playoffs. But I mean, I'd say that's my whole overview on it as it stands right now.
Fair enough, fair enough. And as far as the NBA goes, is there anything else in particular you want to talk about before we move to another subject? I know that it's kind of light on topics this week.
Also, I don't have the whole All-Star voting list, but the All-Star team came out, and I don't know if you want to get your opinion on that real quick.
Let's go ahead and do that real quickly, because I actually knew there was a bit of controversy, mainly with Luka being named over Dame Lillard. I know that's kind of the big controversy so far, at least, that he's not going to be a starter.
I mean, I get it, but I think if there is a year for Dame to start over Luka, it would have been this year, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the part that I don't particularly understand is it seemed like this would have been the year, considering Luka has not been going off. Dallas has been perennially in the bottom half of the West this year. And, I mean, Blazers aren't killing it, but they're still a better team than the Mavs. So I get the controversy, but I also think, and I'm going to say this without trying to be disrespectful as possible, I think there's like a lot of NBA fans who just blindly love anything related to Damian Lillard, and they can't see the opposite side just because people feel bad for him because he always loses in Portland despite being a top 5 player. Does that make sense? So people want him to get all the individual accolades. I get it. I get why Luka was put over him. I don't necessarily agree, but I also don't think it's a huge controversy. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's. I get it, but it does make me feel some type of way. I'll admit to it, right? And granted, Luka's still performing. The only issue is the wins are not there. With Dame, the wins are there, and he hasn't had his Robin and CJ McCollum either to top it off.
That's true.
For a fair bit, and it's still holding it down. I think CJ McCollum's not back. But granted, it's just the state of the NBA. I mean, this is fan voting. I know players have a big influence on it too, and media. It's just how the cookie crumbles, man. Anyways, I'm sure Dame will still be in the All-Star game. He just won't be a starter.
I mean, if he wasn't, good Lord, could you imagine if he wasn't in the All-Star game? But, I mean, who's somebody that you actually, like, I guess we should wait this conversation for next week, because I was just say, like, who's somebody you think should get in, who probably won't get in, but I guess we should probably wait to see, actually.
I was going to say, we don't have the full list yet. We know. Whenever...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, we know, I know where players ended up, like their positions, you're able to see that. Like, I know Booker ended up in 5th for all guards.
Yeah.
But they haven't released like the official like bench.
Yeah, man. All I know is I'm gonna be outraged when D Rose doesn't make it. That's all I gotta say. No, I'm a joke aside. I'm sure Shea Gill's gonna get robbed, but I mean, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, man. We should probably wait for next week on that one. But speaking of D Rose, we could talk about his former teammate. We didn't talk about this on the show. Blake Griffin. I think I mentioned it last week about how bad the Pistons are going to be and how he's probably just going to ride out the rest of his career there, making a boatload of cash. Immediately got proved wrong. No time right after we filmed that and after I said that, he announced, well, I guess the Pistons announced that he's going to be sitting until they find a trade partner or they release him. I guess I'll ask this. Is there any market, any at all, for Blake Griffin? For any team whatsoever?
The Pistons.
He thinks he's just gonna stay in Detroit.
I think it's the smartest idea. Not gonna lie, I know the Pistons probably don't want that, but it's like, hey man, you're already losing a fuck ton, and you can absorb this contract, and then have a fuck ton of salary space in the future, when you can start signing better players, and hopefully some good draft picks come your way. So yeah, I think Blake's in the right spot. No one's gonna trade for Blake Griffin. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man, because we saw that come out a couple of days ago, and there's been no reports. Like, not a single, like, whenever there's big trades, big players like this, you always see immediately, like, oh, this team's interested, that team. Not a single person. Not a single team that I've seen that has a lot of interest. I mean, you can just Google it. I don't see anything here. I wouldn't be surprised if OKC took him. I mean, like, just to mention, I mean, it makes sense. I saw somebody float that on Twitter. Obviously, he came from Oklahoma boy. We have the cap space because, I mean, we're already used to absorbing bad contracts. Did it with CP3, doing without Horford right now. Why not add another one? Somebody mentioned him maybe going to LA, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I mean, I guess if they wanted to come off the bench, that'd be interesting. But yeah, man, I think you're honestly right in saying that Detroit is the best thing for him, but I don't think he's going to. I don't think that it's a viable market just for him, just because whenever both sides want to move on, you never see a situation where they ended up staying together. It just does not happen. But I mean, I've been wrong before. But moving on from that, man, is there anything else on the NBA side you want to talk about?
Not this moment. We hit everything we kind of need to talk about. Also, with All-Star Weekend coming up, and kind of last week, kind of looking. Wasn't last week. It might have been the week before. Just looking ahead a little bit as a whole. As the NBA. I think we kind of touched up on everything we need to talk about for this week.
Fair enough. And real quick, before we move to boxing and close out the show, man, I gotta ask, did you watch the Fan Control Football League? Because I know we talked about it last week, bro. Did you watch any of it?
I sadly didn't, but I heard it was good.
It was just ridiculous. It was so ridiculous, man. I mean, it was everything I wanted. Truly, it was. Because
man.
Look, man. I mean, you had Johnny Football, and by the way, something I didn't know is that the way it works is they draft teams every single week.
I know.
That's so weird to me. But anyways, so they drafted all these teams. Johnny Manziel is one of the few players I guess is going to stick on a team. We got franchise tagged, and I guess they can do that for a couple of the players. Both games were a shootout. Second one with Manziel was a lot more entertaining. There were a lot more highlights. Insane play to end the game. But yeah, man, it was just insane. And the way that it works is, so it's a little bit different than what I thought. But overall, it's still just you pick your team. And then for that team, you can then pick plays. You can't pick plays for all four teams, but on offense. But it's like you pick your team, and then you can go ahead and pick plays for that team, which is interesting. But it was a freak show, dude. Honestly, it really was. It was not good football, but it was entertaining, if that makes any sense.
Now, did anything ridiculous happen, like a Hail Mary throw or like just a dumb handoff at a position where it didn't have to happen?
There was the final play of the second game between our boys, the Zappers. So Manziel, I guess they're running a 2-quarterback team. They have Manziel and they have his dude Logan Maki, who I think played at Old Dominion, but don't quote me on that. He's this big dude, similar play style to Manziel. Final play of the game, he was in there for the Hail Mary. He ended up scrambling around for like that 15 seconds, nearly got sacked 4 times, dumps it off, throws it to this dude in the flat, and ends up pitching it to another guy. You should look up the play on Twitter while I'm talking about it because it was insane. He ends up getting close to they're all on the opposite side of the field. He ends up driving all the way on this one play to the final like 5-yard lines. This one dude who caught the ball ends up diving from like the 10 and just ends up being barely hit out of bounds. It was an insane end of the game, and if they got that play, they would have won. Nothing really that insane, but one offensive lineman did end up eating, as a part of their touchdown celebration, he ate a Wendy's hamburger. So
I was going to say,
you saw that one, yeah?
No, I didn't.
Oh no, I thought I sent that to you. Never mind. So this is somebody else.
Heartbreak.
Anyways, yeah, man, it was insane. It was very entertaining.
Now I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How does the quarterback know the play?
See, that's the thing that's interesting because I have no idea. I can only imagine they have a mic in their helmets, but it's like, so the way it works
the coach, quote unquote.
Yeah, I guess so, because the way it works is like you can call the play and you see it, and it's like you have 7 seconds to pick a play gets picked, and then probably 5 seconds goes by, and then the play happens. It's really quick.
What? And then whoever is on audio tells the QB
I
real
think
quick.
so. I think that's what happens.
Man,
But I don't know, man. It was interesting to watch. I just wanted to know if you'd seen it because it was a freak show, and we got another like 5 weeks of it, so I'm hype.
I need to tune in, man. Just with the UFC and getting out of work.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a busy day for me, man. Now that I remember, I got home. We had plans to hang out with someone originally. Plans changed. We waited like an hour and a half, and then something else happened. And then I went over, and then we had a delay, and then we started watching UFC, and I completely forgot about it because I had work that morning. So it was just an odd day for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, man. Moving on from that, the final topic this week, we got a little bit of boxing. First time in a long time. And it's a pretty good card. It's a pretty good Showtime card. I feel like a lot of these Showtime cards, PBC cards, pretty like disappointing. This one, I like it a lot. Adrien the Problem Broner, AB man, he's back. Um, the Candy Man, taking on. Let me see if I can remember this kid's name off the top of my head. Because if you've been watching the promotion for this fight, you would have never seen this kid's name. And it makes sense because obviously Adrien Broner is a huge star, former four-time world champion, coming back for the first time in 2 years. Something Santiago, I believe, is this kid's name. I'm not even going to ask you if Broner's going to win. What I'll ask you is, do you have any interest in Adrien Broner as a potential title challenger moving forward? Do you think he still has it in him? Because it's been, what is it? It's been around 4 years since we saw him in a winnable title situation. He's obviously then he lost to Mikey. He had a draw with Jesse Vargas, where he probably should have lost, and then he got dominated by Pacquiao. And that's his first fight since then. It's been over 2 years. Do you have any interest in this fight, and do you have any interest in Broner as a title challenger moving forward?
He's one of those guys who's just kind of interesting, like the personality, like they're like, oh, he's fighting him. Maybe he isn't like championship material, but he will give you maybe a good fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where he stands for me, as far as like, oh, I'm interested because Adrien Broner is fighting is a lie. Yes. So that's where I stand on it right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Do you think he wins on Saturday at least?
I mean, God, if we don't know the guy's name, he should, right?
I mean, and I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. You're more of a boxing head than I am. I have no idea who this kid is.
I'm sure he has some sort of accolade.
Some sort of credential.
Some sort of credential. This is okay. I'm looking at it now in Boxer. This is his first fight in the United States, so
they're doing him dirty.
You never know, right? We've seen, anything can happen, man. People gone the distance.
Fair enough. And look, man, as far as Broner goes, he's a very interesting guy, like you said. I obviously want to see him compete because he's still one of the biggest stars in his division. I just never thought we'd see him again. After the Pacquiao fight, he really went downhill mentally, just seeing him post some of the stuff on Instagram and getting arrested a couple of times. So it's good to see him back, and I hope he's in a good headspace because I like seeing him compete, Mm-hmm. Do I think he has a lot of potential as a title challenger? No, and I don't expect this fight to be entertaining because Adrien Broner has not let his hands go in like 6 years at this point. The last time I thought Adrien Broner looked good was against Ashley Theophane back in 2016. He beat Grandiose back in 2017, but obviously split decision, not a highly rated guy. And then he got dominated by Mikey, and he should have lost to Jesse Vargas, and then he ended up getting dominated by Pacquiao. But the Hood won. But, the Hood thought that he won. So it was on that front, the Hood knows he beat that boy. Which, by the way, the greatest fucking post-fight interview of all time is Adrien Broner going off saying that the Hood knows you beat that boy. I mean, maybe I'm just being like over dramatic, but is it just me or is that the funniest shit ever? But regardless, man.
No, you're right. It's funny. It's pretty funny.
But then again, that's something that boxing is underrated for is the post-fight interviews. MMA, there's been some funny ones over the years, but dude, I can name so many off the top of my head, just insane post-fight stuff. Like Larry Merchant telling Floyd Mayweather if he were 50 years younger, he'd beat his ass. James Toney, Burger King, Don King could kiss my ass. You know what I mean? Like Mike Tyson. All of his post-fight interviews. I mean, just boxing is a gold mine for that shit. So that's been funny over the years. But yeah, man, that's another legendary moment. But then again, Broner's had another one too. I know this is like a really weird tangent to go off on, but I just started remembering all the funny shit that happened in boxing post-fight interviews. Do you remember that time Broner told Naji that he stole his side piece?
Man,
have you seen that?
No, I have not.
Oh, you haven't
What?
seen. Oh, well, okay. So here's the storyline, right? They're fighting in 2011. One of the first boxing fights I've ever seen, by the way. I don't remember why I saw it. I just know that I was into Fight Night Champion around that time, and I saw ads for it on ESPN.
You're like,
So anyways,
gotta watch it.
yeah, you've got it. While I'm talking about this, you should look this up. Broner ends up beating him. Close fight. Paulie, in his prime, was a legit dude. Just had the punching power of a fly. If Paulie Malignaggi had punching power, he'd be a goat, straight up. That's my opinion. But anyway, so,
No, man, so many people like that, right?
but dude, well, Paulie had 6 knockout wins in his entire career, and he fought like 50 times. Anyway, so that's besides the point, though. Adrien Broner, he beat him, and he said, "I took his belt and his girl." You can call me like he still never go off his whole rant. Paulie, who's leaving the ring at this point, runs back in. Don't talk about my side piece. Don't talk about my side piece. You took my side. Don't talk about my side piece. Infamous. One of the funniest things I've ever seen in boxing.
Love to see it.
Yeah, man. But moving on to the co-main event, which I'm more excited for. I mean, Adrien Broner is a star. He's a former 4-time world champion. He's fought Pacquiao. He's fought Maidana. He's fought so many good dudes. Dominic Breazeale out of Wallin. That's a fucking banger right there, bro. That is an awesome fight, and it's not right. It's not world championship material. I mean, I'm sure there's some title on the line in this. There always is. But Dominic Breazeale out of Wallin, man, that's a fun fight. How much are you looking forward to this one in the co-main?
You know, Otto Wallin was just one of those guys we discovered through the Tyson fight. And you know how we were giving a lot of shit to Tyson at the time of like he wasn't fighting that good at competition. Deontay was kind of fighting the better guys at the time, kind of leading up to their fight. And Otto Wallin was this diamond in the rough, right? Where we come in, we're like, I remember you're like, okay, what round do you think he finishes? I'm like, I don't know, Josh. I don't think he's gonna finish him for some reason. Like I don't know. There's just something not right here.
Also, this is coming off of the last time because he fought Tom Schwartz, and I was like, so what round do you not think he knocks him out in? And I said that whole thing, and he ended up getting knocked down in round 2. So I'm like, I'm on a pretty good track record with this thing. Let's run it back again. And Otto Wallin, man, at some points he was beating Tyson's ass in that fight. Can we just go ahead and like for various stretches of the fight, he looked really good.
I mean, he had his moments. Like anybody in any fight, he had his moments, and you got to give the guy credit. You know, who knows? Maybe on the right night. And granted, there was a cut that came into play, affected the fight. And,
that's true. And also, we'd be remiss not to mention how big of a factor that cut was for Wallin's success. However, it also would be unfair to mention that if that fighter was any other fighter than Tyson Fury, that shit would have been stopped in the third because of the cut. I mean, that was horrendous.
That is also correct. You're also correct there. I will not disagree with you.
I mean, I just got to point it out.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I just want to give credit where credit's due and lay out the story and what legitimately happened. And that's what happened, man. But ever since that loss, he won his last fight. He's been active. He didn't let him slow him down. He kind of put his name out there, and he's one of those guys that we can see again in a nice, contending position again.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at a time when he got that big opportunity when he didn't probably necessarily deserve it. Not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but at that time, Tyson Fury should have been fighting a lot better competition leading into this fight. Granted, he did what he had to do when that fight came around with Wilder, so he kind of shut us all down. But it would have been nice to see him take on other names and leading into that fight that were bigger and kind of, I don't know, making it more exciting.
Mm. Fair enough. And as far as the actual fight itself, because we talked a lot about Wallin. Dominic Breazeale is a really good fighter in his own right. Only 2 losses throughout his career. He's been fighting at the World Championship level for a while now. Only 2 losses to Joshua and Wilder, obviously. And the Wilder knockout is one of the most horrendous things I've ever seen. I think I've told the story before. I was just showing up to my Buffalo Wild Wings whenever the fight was going down, and right whenever I stepped
Oh no, what happened? Did I lose you?
Punched out of like a shotgun, right?
Yep,
Just as
got
soon as
you.
I'm stepping through the door. So yeah, man. And I was just like, all right, well, that's fun. I'm leaving now.
So you didn't get to order your fried pickles or your wings or anything.
No, not my fried pickles, not my wings, not to buy because that's all I showed up for. You know what I mean? And I was a little bit late showing up to the Buffalo Wild Wings. And they were just just showing up in time. To
You
see
were just
Brazil.
opening the door, right? Like you just opened the door and and you got the one in near where we live has two doors.
Yeah,
So you had to wait for the
yeah,
other
yeah.
load to kind of load up, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. And I was just as soon as I opened up the door, it was uncanny. The second I opened up that door to the Buffalo Wild Wings, he went down. It was just insane timing, honestly.
Yeah, and then you got greeted by some ad lady at the front, right? Crazy.
Yeah, man, for sure, for sure. But as for the fight itself, I mean, who are you leaning towards in this one?
I think Valine, dude, he showed some good skills. Obviously, Dominic Brazil, world class, right? But he's taking this fight right after almost a 2-year layoff, right? It's almost been 2 years at this point.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Been a while. Very bad knock. I mean, he did it the right way, right? Took a lot of time. Is resetting.
Well, I mean, he almost died, so it'd be good to go and take some time off.
Well, did he actually suffer some serious injuries from that afterwards? I never kept up with it.
I don't think so. I think he's fine. But that has to be bad for the noggin. You know what I mean? Like he got put down.
Without a doubt. So he, as far as like the recovery and the time, he did everything correctly.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, no, that was a scary thing when it initially happened. One of the craziest, in MMA or boxing, one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen, or one of the most brutal ones I've ever seen. If not the most, I think that's the most brutal one I've seen. And I saw Eddie Wineland get knocked out by Sean O'Malley live.
And then Cody Garbrandt knocking out Rafael Assunção. That was an insane card. That was a good card. Anyways, yeah, man, I'm also leaning towards Valine. I think Brazil's world class, and I think he did the right thing by taking time off. But I'm a big fan of Valine, man. He really showed a lot in that fight to make me jump on the hype train. Do I think he's going to be world champ soon? I don't know. Probably not. Just because how good heavyweight is right now. But shit, man. I mean, I think he's good enough to be Dominic Brazil. I think he does have some potential, and especially if he fights the way that he did against Tyson Fury. A lot of dirty boxing, a lot of very close in fighting, very clinch based. And obviously that type of style depends on the referee that he's going to have. But I think he's good enough to be Brazil. But I mean, outside of that, man, is there anything else you want to talk about before we bounce out of here?
Not right now, man. Just super excited for episode 100 coming up next week. Going to be an absolute banger, long one. So get your popcorn ready for next week whenever that releases.
Popcorn ready, folks. Yeah, that's the thing I want to talk about, man. I mean, I hyped up the show a little bit this week just because I want to announce the UFC press stuff. But if y'all have not noticed on our social medias, on just personally, it's going to be a big show next week. Obviously, it's Soundoff 100. We've been doing this for over 2 years now, or close to 2 years. I'm not sure how the time works out on that.
Close to 2 years, I think, is where we're coming.
Close to 2 years.
This would be year 2.
Fair enough. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a big show. We already have a lot of stuff planned. This is for like fun segments. And one of those fun segments is obviously fan questions, which are still available. I've learned a lot about our audience this past week since putting that fan question up. I've learned too much about our audience. Not to go ahead and expose any of the questions, but I will go ahead and give a quick shout out to one of those questions. Somebody asked if they send spaghetti to the Courtside Soundoff P.O. box. If they send spaghetti, will I eat it live on air? The answer is yes. We don't have a P.O. box. It's just my house. But if you give me spaghetti, I will eat it live on air. So you go ahead and go. Yeah, man, a lot of interesting questions. We are still taking them. Go ahead and send them into Instagram or at our email. If you can go ahead and do it audio-based or just type it out, either one would be fine. But outside of that, boys, Soundoff 100 next week. But I hope you guys just go ahead and enjoy this episode. If you guys want to follow us on all the social medias, at Courtside Soundoff 1 on Twitter, at Josh Evanoff, at Angel_01. We would appreciate it. Outside of that, peace and butt grease. Mouse click.